Hello, welcome and thank you for joining us for this information session focused on leadership in an online environment. We want to let you know a couple of things before we begin. First, you are in a listen-only mode to preserve the sound quality of the session. There's several interactive opportunities that we encourage you to participate in, and you're also able to ask questions and interact using the chat icon located at the bottom of your screen. Additionally, we are recording this session and a copy will go out to all registrants approximately 24 hours from now. With that, we'd like to introduce your webinar host, Stephanie Henshaw, Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs at American College of Education. Stephanie?
Great, thanks, Tammy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today. I hope you are doing as well as possible in this new normal. And hopefully we'll be able to spend about 30 to 40 minutes together in a productive and meaningful way. So let me just jump in and talk about what we're going to cover today. As Tammy alluded to, there will be several parts where I'm going to ask for feedback, engage you in some polls, and want to be able to make this really helpful and practical for you. So if you have questions at all, please feel free to go ahead and ask those and put them in the chat box. But what we have today, we will have a quick introduction, just give you a little bit of a background of who I am. We're going to talk a little bit about some key leadership principles, and then most importantly, how we can apply those leadership principles in an online environment. And just really being able to figure out what that looks like, because I know there's a lot of changes going on right now, and sometimes it's hard to figure out how to take something that's done in person and make that in a virtual world. So we're going to be able to discuss those. That's where the lion's share of the presentation is going to be today. And then we're going to have some one page and one slide link towards the software tools that we have available and that I would recommend, as well as some digital tools. And then, of course, have time for questions. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. First part is the introduction. So just a little background about myself. I am Stephanie Henshaw. As Tammy said, I'm the Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs at American College of Education. I've actually been at ACE for 6 years now, or 6 years in June. I don't know where the time is going. I am a servant leader. I'm going to not really focus so much on the servant leadership principles. I could talk about that all day, but I am definitely a servant leader by nature. I have been in higher education for 19 years. So of course that means I started when I was, 10, right? I wish. And of those 19 years, I have been in leadership positions for at least 15 years. The most important part and what's relevant in today's conversation is I have spent 10 of those years working in online environments or leading remote teams. So this is something I feel fairly comfortable with, and something that I definitely wanted to share some practical approaches for those of you who might be navigating that for the first time. A passion of mine, not because I like it, but because I am adamant about doing something about it, is toxic leadership. So my research, my academic contributions really center around toxic leadership. I'm currently researching the impacts of toxic leaders on their followers. And it's something I feel very, very passionate about bringing awareness to. Additionally, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana with my husband and my fur babies. So I am a dog lover, a kindness enthusiast, and a mountain fanatic. Now, some of you might be thinking you live in the wrong place if you're a mountain fanatic. I would agree. I do live in Indianapolis, but my husband and I travel to Colorado or Utah or Canada or Washington, usually several times a year, so we can get our fix of skiing in the mountains. So that's just a little bit about me. Wanted to make sure you knew who I was before I dove into the practical approaches that we're going to talk about today. However, before we do this, I am going to ask you just to share a little bit about yourself. So one of the things that I'm going to recommend at the end of this presentation is talking about how, as leaders, we can insert some fun tools into our leadership practices while leading in an online environment. And one of those is actually poll everywhere. So what I would like you all to do is, if you have a smartphone close by, I would probably recommend accessing the poll by using a smartphone. However, you could use the website address, okay? So let me kind of make sure that this makes sense to everybody. I'm gonna ask you some questions. I'm gonna ask you to answer them, and you're gonna do it in the poll area. So if you want to use the computer, you would then somehow remember to write that whole HTTPS website address and post that into your browser. Or you could go to texting, and you would text the number. The screen shows this over here. You're gonna text 37607, and you're gonna text the message is Stephanie Pin 479. I'm gonna pause there and see if you guys have any questions and give you a little time to access the poll. Could someone put in the chat box when they can confirm when they are in the poll for me? Great, thank you, Tiffany. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for the confirmation. All right, so we are going to go ahead and take our first poll. All right, so what I would like you to do, please, just a little bit about yourself, since I'm not able to know everything about these lovely participants on the call, is see if you could just type in, where do you live? City, state, whatever you would like to provide. Where do we have people attending from today? Oh, Phoenix, Ohio, awesome. I'm originally from Ohio. Florida. Great. We got a lot of people, or 2 from Ohio so far. Oh, I'm jealous, whoever said Colorado. Oh, and great. And yeah, go ahead and put in the chat box if you can't get in the poll too. Thank you, guys. Looks like so far Ohio is the popular state. Cincinnati, Ohio. Great. Thank you, guys. And all the people in Ohio here, I have to ask, because one thing I didn't share is I'm a diehard Ohio State fan. So do I have any other fellow Buckeye fans on here? All right, I don't see any. Oh, there we go at OH. Thanks, Tori. Go Bucks. Thanks, Jennifer. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we have a lot of different places here. We have Arizona, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Colorado, California, you name it. So we've got a lot of great representation. What I love about this is this tells us that we're all in this together no matter where we're at. So people from all over the place are trying to navigate online leadership for the first time. Oh, and there we have somebody from Maryland. Great, awesome. Oh, and somebody from Indianapolis. Latoya, I'm sending you a wave. All right, wonderful. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next question then, just because I wanna make sure I stay within the time parameters. So the next one, let me see if I can get this to advance. Sometimes it gets a little tricky here. Okay, is your position. So I just wanted to know a little bit about the people I'm speaking to today. If you could just answer A, B, C, D, E about what your current position is, the best that you can in that, knowing that I couldn't put everything on here. Great, so we've got a lot of building level administrators, a lot of teachers. I want to thank you for everything you're doing. I know that your lives have been turned upside down the last several weeks, so thank you for all you're doing. Oh, more in the chat here. Great, D, C, A, B, great. All right, so it looks like we have a lot of diversity for positions. So not only do we have diversity in states, we also have diversity in positions. I love this. One of the things I'm a huge believer in is leadership being interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and every position having a leadership component to it. So this really speaks to what leadership is that we all have a leadership capacity in our roles. So this is wonderful to see. All right, great. Oh, we had somebody, we got on the board with district level administrator too. So literally diversity and everywhere. Awesome, great. Okay, so I'm gonna move us along to the next one. If I can get the slides advanced, sometimes it's tricky down here. I'm gonna move along with one last poll question for everybody. Key leadership principles. So I want to preface this by saying we're not going to be able to cover all of them today, but if you don't mind just typing in a word that comes to mind when you think of something that is important in leadership, I think that would be wonderful to see. Trust, great. Communication. Yeah, I think one of the things that if you are not familiar with this software is this is creating a word cloud, which obviously you all can see. But the bigger a word is getting means that the more people are responding to it. So on this call, the participants are really saying that communication, trust, example, listening, collaboration are some of the big ones that we think of. Great. So look at the chat over here too. Empathy. Oh, I love who said empathy. I love that. Respect. Absolutely. And Renee, to get the words to type in, you just actually type that word to the poll number, so that 37607, if you're in the poll, you're able to get the words to show up there. Okay, transparency. Yep. Great. This is wonderful. I love the different variety of words we have. I'm having a hard time, everybody, because I want to ask what you mean by these words, and I know we don't have to talk through all of this and still get through everything. So thank you so much for all the great feedback here. So really what jumps off the page here is communication, respect, example, understanding, listening, trust, collaboration. Obviously, there's a lot of other words up there. Compassion and empathy, kindness. I love these words, and really shows we have a really caring group of leaders on this call. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to not the whole part of the presentation and talk about 4 leadership principles that when I was thinking about leadership, what could I cover and what did I think were 4 principles that would be super important in leading in an online environment that we could cover in 30 to 40 minutes today. And the principles that I came up with, which I'm really relieved, aligns a lot with what you all said, just in a little bit different way I worded them. So first of all, communication. Second is structure. Third, accountability. And fourth, authenticity. So what the remaining part of this presentation, or this component of the presentation, looks like is really diving into each 4 of these, what they mean as a leadership principle, and then what they can look like in an online environment. Because I think sometimes what's hard, and I have been somebody who's been an on-ground leader, leading face-to-face, and then all of a sudden I was moved to an online environment, and so many of these principles that I knew, I just wasn't quite sure how to instill them in an online environment. So that's what we're going to do now. If you have questions about any of those, again, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll also save time at the end too. So communication. So what is communication? So I thought that that was important to talk about because it's something that we hear a lot about. We know that communication is one of the major things our team members complain about, know about it in an organization, is you usually hear, I wish communication was better. And so I thought, okay, well, let me look at really what communication is. And so communication is, and a lot of us probably know this, the process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of syllables, signs, or behaviors, personal rapport, and then information transmitted or conveyed. And I think that conveyed part is super important. A lot of you use the word listening when we were talking about communication and about principles of leadership. And if you're not listening, the conveyed part obviously doesn't work. So it's important that communication is, of course, not just talking at people, it's listening to what people also have to say and making sure that we're truly understanding. So the good news about communication in this definition is it does not need to be in person. So for those of you who are transitioning to an online environment, you can still communicate. However, one of the biggest changes in communication is it needs to be more intentional. So what I mean by that is when I transitioned from an in-person type leadership environment to an online environment, I had to stop relying on being able to see people. or just pull my team within my office, or get the faculty to be able to talk in a quick huddle in the hallway between classes. And I wasn't able to go check in with a faculty member or a student success coach to see if a student was in school. I had to be intentional about that communication. And so that's different, right? Is because one of those items that just bumping into people and seeing them in impromptu conversations sometimes goes away in that online environment. So what does communication look like in an online environment? Well, first of all, do you see that little picture here on the side? That was actually a picture from our yesterday's executive cabinet call. So this is what it looks like for ACE. We have little pictures of people all on video calls. We have a cat in the background. It looks different, right? It's not us sitting in the hallway talking. So communication in an online environment includes emails. So one of the things that I think is important about emails to team members is that you really need to be mindful of the amount of emails that you send. Having said that, it's important to be able to convey the information you need in emails, because one of the things with emails is that you don't need everybody online at the same time. So emails can be a really great distribution of great information. They also can be a little bit of an encouragement. And so one of the things that I'm doing now, because I want to offer real practical approaches, is every single morning, since the whole COVID-19 crisis started, so I'm going on really 3 weeks now, I wake up, I get on my computer, and the first thing I do is I send my team an email. And the email is just, good morning, how is everyone doing today? And I send a little funny clip of something I saw, or a little inspirational message I saw, and I just open up the communication pathway right away. So that is something that you can do if you would like to do in your teams, to make sure that you are letting people know that you're here, you're letting people know that you're accessible, and also just giving them a nice positive start of their day. Another communication channel that we have in the online environment is chats. So you can always use Teams, Skype, chat with people. Phone calls. One of the tips of the trade for phone calls is, especially in this new normal, it's hard to be able to get everybody to just jump on a call when you would normally just be able to call someone. So one of the things that I'm very, very disciplined about and would encourage you to is actually schedule your phone calls. So if you know you want to talk to Monica the next day, say, hey, Monica, I need to talk with you. I'm going to go ahead and schedule a time, and not have that be a surprise. And that way that person can be available at that time to give you as much attention as they can. The other ways would be online meetings. We're doing that now. Video meetings. I'm a huge believer in that. I've really tried to put on my camera recently a lot more. We need that time, and the video helps with that connectedness that we're missing right now. And then again, that scheduling intentionally to build structure. So those are some ways and practical ways that we can use communication in an online environment. So building out the building structure. Not sure if anyone here is familiar with Robert Greenleaf or Simon Sinek. Robert Greenleaf is the founder and lead philosopher of servant leadership, and then Simon Sinek is a big researcher on leadership now. And one of the biggest things they espouse, it is our job to help people feel safe. So anyone in a leadership role, we need to make sure that people feel as safe as possible, because when they're safe, they're more creative, they're more productive, more efficient, and they're more positive. So it's our responsibility to be able to help people feel safe. I'm going to say that even more now so than ever, I feel a sense of responsibility of providing some structure to my team, meaning that I know that worlds are turned upside down. I know my world is turned upside down, and mine is not even turned upside down as much as a lot of people's. We are dealing with a lot of new occurrences, a lot of new feelings, a lot of new complications, and then we're also dealing with a lot of change. So the more certainty we can provide to our teams at this time, the better they're going to be able to function. So how can we do this? Because again, helping people feel safe is a hug. It can be a handshake. It can be going into someone's office and closing the door and saying you're doing a really good job. That's really easy to do a lot of times in a non-online environment. But again, it needs to be more structured in an online environment. Sorry, I think I just said that backwards. So what can we do to provide that structure as leaders? The most important thing, and I think somebody said this, or a lot of you said it, and what matters in leadership is making sure that you're accountable, right? And making sure that you have integrity. So doing what you say you're going to do. That is the single most important thing. So if you say you're going to email your team, or you say you're going to send a report, or you say you're going to provide some kind of training, following through on that is the single most important thing we can do as leaders. The second thing is regularly scheduled updates. You choose how. We are at American College of Education. Our president is sending out a weekly update to our college, is basically saying how things are going at the college now, where we stand. And that's a 3 to 5 minute update, nothing really huge, but making sure that that's happening. So again, our team members know that we're here for them. As I shared with you, I'm sending regular emails to my team. I'm checking in with them and saying, is there anything else right now that you need from me? Is there anything you're facing that you didn't anticipate that we need to work through? So having a regular clip where people know they're going to hear from you is really important, again, in this online environment, as well as during this critical time. Additionally, having regularly scheduled team meetings and regularly scheduled individual touch bases. So I put a little copy of my calendar over here, normally has somebody's name on it, but I schedule touch bases with everybody I'm accountable to every single week. Sometimes we need an hour, sometimes we need 15 minutes, but we make sure we have the time to talk. Why that's important is that is important because that team member no longer is worrying about when they're going to be able to talk to you again. And that is something that, again, wouldn't happen necessarily in a on-campus or a personal environment where you're person to person, because if you needed somebody, you can know that you can just go to their office. And so this is what I consider the virtual equivalent to office hours, that we know we have this time, we're going to be able to talk. If something comes up, you know that you're going to have that hour for me or with me. And if we need to talk beforehand, absolutely, but it's at least peace of mind. Another important component about structure and safety is clear expectations from you about how to communicate and act. So if you want people to turn their video cameras on, let them know ahead of time. I didn't do that recently and that didn't go so well. But letting people know how you think we should interact. Do you want them to text you? Do you want them to email you? Do you want them to send you a chat? But those clear expectations about how they should be communicating with you in this new environment is critical. And then most importantly, positive reinforcement again and again and again. What we're doing is hard. It's a hard thing right now in transitioning everything to an online environment at a drop of a hat. It's definitely difficult. So celebrate those wins and continue to reinforce the small items. Next principle, accountability. So one of my favorite sayings is trust but verify. Don't know if anyone else on here really likes that saying or not, but it's from Ronald Reagan. Excuse me, I could just moved ahead somehow. But one of the things that he always espoused was that leaders needed to trust their people. So we definitely weren't micromanaging per se, but we need to verify. And so to me, that's what I think of accountability in leadership. Leaders are accountable for actions. We're accountable for communications. We're accountable for behaviors. We're accountable for the culture we create in our team. And we also are accountable for results and, of course, verification. So again, that's easier to do if you're in person. If I needed to know if somebody was in a class or they were teaching their students, I could just walk by the classroom. If I wanted to make sure that my student success coaches were helping students and on the phone and making those calls, again, I could see them. But when you transition to an online environment, some of that goes away. And so that trust can cause, you need to trust, but it can also cause anxiety sometimes for leaders, because you also need to make sure people are doing what you think they're doing. So what does that look like in an online environment? Well, this looks like reports. Little bar chart over here is that we can send out emailed reports if there's a way to track activity. And again, I'm not sure if we have that in everyone's instances. So please know I'm not saying that every system is so sophisticated that you have that. But if you do an emailed report to the team about how we're doing with engaging students, or how we're doing about online delivery and how many hours were logged that week, or some kind of area that we're able to measure progress and metrics, is really important, not only for accountability, but also for success breeding success. So if you had, I don't know, 20 classes that were online, and next week it's 30, then that's a victory to be able to report on. And that can be emailed out, that can be accessed, a lot of different ways that you can show that to individuals. Additionally, some of, well, most, and excuse me, I don't know all of them, but most learning information systems and student information systems have a lot of reports. So ways for you as a leader to be able to access if who's accessing classes, who's logging in, who's using Zoom. So really looking at those different digital tools and seeing if you can access any of those reports to be able to have for accountability. Additionally, they use project management software, which I'm going to show you one here in a little bit, on-demand reports, and again, continue to measure those activities, the results you want, which is basically what I just talked about. So a lot of the same leadership principles apply here. It's just that we have to look sometimes at different data than what we were looking at when we were on an in-person or an on-ground campus. Last but not least, my absolute favorite one, and I think somebody had this, is authenticity. So, did everyone see what I just did there? What happened? What changed? Anyone see it in the chat? Background. How do you guys feel about that background now? Bingo, woo! Yeah, so does that make me seem a little bit more authentic? Yeah, it looks, like you said, Amanda, it lightens the mood, right? I told you guys I liked mountains. So what if I did this? All of a sudden I'm in Telluride, yay! Or sometimes we love dogs and our pets make lots of noises and we know that they're going to be perhaps a little bit difficult on a call. We can change our backgrounds, and now you've got my dog, which, isn't he really cute? He's super cute when he's sleeping, but sometimes he's not, very quiet. So with that being said, it's just a way to be able to truly be a little bit more lighthearted. Again, things are scary right now, so the more lighthearted and authentic and vulnerable you can be, it's important to be able to see if you can have a little fun, but it also allows you to be able to lighten the mood. And I think sometimes, like Renee said, you can also definitely need to be professional. So know your audience. This isn't something I would do necessarily on a call with our board of trustees. But it is something with my team. If we are having a meeting and we've all been cooped up for a while and we've been on a lot of meetings, this would be a fun one, right? And so I think, Heather, you asked, can you change the background in other applications like team meetings? So you can definitely do it in Zoom. In Team, there is a way to do it. There was actually a post I read last night that somebody changed her avatar in Teams as a potato and was stuck as a potato. So I don't recommend that. But there is a way in Teams to be able to have some plugins. It's a little bit more complicated. Additionally, there's a way you can blur your background in Teams as well. And I think some people are raising their hands. Yeah, what other questions? Cool, thanks, great. And I see some hands raised, but I don't see any questions. So if you have a question, will you just put it in the chat for me, please? So that way I can make sure I get to that. So I'll go ahead, you can play conference bingo as you're doing this and reading this area. And I'm not gonna try to be too distracting. Actually, I am gonna change it back. Sorry, I hit the video off because I know that it could be distracting and this is a professional environment, but I am gonna put myself in Telluride. How does that sound? And so authenticity, why is that so important? Well, my favorite leadership author, and I'm sure a lot of you have read her, is Brene Brown. So she really talks about authenticity, vulnerability, and being human. Bringing your human to work, showing people that you're not perfect, being able to have those brave conversations, which means that we are not everything that we want to be right now, right? And sometimes we're a little bit lesser than what we want to be. And so as a leader, the contention there is that the more authentic we are, the more that we show our vulnerabilities, the more difficult conversations we can have and the more authentic relationships. She talks about sitting in the rumble, and that's about having those difficult conversations or those uncomfortable ones. And there's a lot of uncomfortable feeling right now. So the more authentic you can be, the more apt people are to be able to approach you when they're struggling. And so authenticity, my favorite quote over here is, imperfections are not inadequacies. They are reminders that we're all in this together. And so with that in mind, what does that look like in an online environment? Well, I just showed you with the background. I'm now in Telluride. But some other things is that admitting this is new for you too. This is one thing that I always forget as a leader, is that I think that I'm the only one, struggling, and that I need to know what I'm doing to be able to provide that to my team. But what I find out is when I say I really don't know, and I am struggling too, that it opens the conversation and more collaboration. So authenticity is admitting that you're also struggling. It's accepting responsibilities for mistakes. It's having a little fun. As we talked about, we just had a little fun by changing our background. Again, I'm not saying you would do that in every single meeting, but know your audience. And when you can have fun, that's important. And you can see my little picture over here. I told you I send out emails to my team every single morning. And I put this little picture. It's not my dog, but he does feel that way a little bit. But even just little lighthearted items to say, okay, I'm not going to always contact with you just with important information, but we can also have a little bit of fun. Asking for ideas and help, of course. And then last but not least, being real in meetings. Our new normal has children in the background. Our new normal has dogs barking. Our new normal has interactions. And so making sure that while we try to minimize those, that we also do have people that will have those, and making people not feel bad about that. So that's some ways you can be authentic in the online environment. And I think I have a chat here. Let me go see what I've got here. Oh no, someone got bumped off. Oh, looks like she's back in. Okay, thank you. Great. Welcome back. All right, so last but not least slide. I said I was going to keep it to 30 to 40 minutes, and that's exactly where we're going to land. So I wanted to offer you guys, you might already have some of these. These might be great. They may be redundant, or maybe one of these ideas is new to you. And so some different tools to help. So Office 365, Google Calendar, sharing calendars. If you haven't shared your calendar or created a joint calendar with your team, that's really important during this time. If not, you might have meetings scheduled on top of meetings. So just allowing that and using the scheduling assist feature. I know that seems little, but a lot of people forget doing that. And if you go into Outlook or Google and you have calendars shared, you can hit scheduling assist and it'll show you when people are available. And that's really important. In addition, we can use meeting software. So what we're using now, Zoom, Teams, Skype, making sure that we have other items available to us. Interaction, what we did earlier, poll everywhere. So starting off a team meeting with some polls. Poll everywhere also has some fun ones in there. It's like, how are you feeling today? And different smiley faces. You can ask people. I know our Vice President of Student Affairs and I were talking this morning, and he had people just do a poll at the beginning of a meeting to say, what are you doing for stress relief at this time? And that started a really authentic conversation where people were able to share and then feel like they were part of a community in an online environment. So poll everywhere. And then Kahoot actually has a free trial right now going on. So that's similar to Poll Everywhere. You can have some fun trivia games on that. I'm actually working in a Kahoot thing into a meeting that I have with my team in 2 weeks. And then additionally, shared folders or sites for collaboration. So one of the things, I have this over here, is this is a lot of times we forget all the software we have available in Office 365. And so let me go look at the questions real quick. All right, great. Virtual backgrounds. Oh, okay. Thanks, TJ. And so I'm going to go ahead is show you this planner. So I don't know if any of you are like me and you like to have a good checklist. I am that person. I love a checklist. I love my planner. I love being able to check things off. And I really struggled sometimes with online teams and being able to have that because there wasn't a whiteboard in my office. And so this is one of these features I just wanted to show real quick because it's one that a lot of times people aren't as aware of, is actually Planner. And so it's going to take us out here for a second. This should be in your Office 365 account. And it is a project management software that if you like that, and if you're like me, you love a good checklist and you love collaboration, you can have different cards, different categories here. You can assign people to different tasks. You can do communication and checklists on here of what things are done. And it just kind of gives you a sense of where certain projects are without having to constantly email people. I'm not going to make this whole presentation or the remaining time of this about Planner, but there are definitely tutorials that you can look at if that's something you're interested in. As you can see, the one I'm showing you right now is our whole college has to transition from APA 6 to APA 7. And so there's multiple people and multiple departments in multiple different areas working on collaboration. So we use this as a way as a center hub for us to stay organized. All right, so that's Planner. OneDrive, Teams, it looks like a lot of you or some of you are using Teams already, but a lot of places where you can share documents and get those documents off of emails. Video presentations. So one of the things that I do every single quarter is I do a PowerPoint and I record audio on every single slide. And sometimes I record my video too. And I send this out to our faculty to be able to give a state of union, for lack of better words, or state of academic affairs. So that way it's different than just getting a text heavy email, and it has a little bit more dynamics into that. So that's another way to be able to engage people in a different way. Prezi, Microsoft Stream has where you can upload videos and share with people. And then last but not least, you can even get into Skype or Zoom and record yourself talking and send people out a link. So a lot of real simple digital tools that don't take a lot of time to learn, because I think that's the struggle right now, at least I would think it would be, is that we don't have a lot of time to figure out some fancy software. We need real practical solutions. So I wanted to offer those to you guys as some potential solutions too. All right, so with that being said, we are at exactly, well, almost 40 minutes. So I tried really hard to keep it to the 30 to 40 minutes. So what questions or comments do you all have? Is there anything that I can answer for you? Okay, yeah, so Emma, no problem. I'll be happy to show you those slides after people log off. I can go back to those, no problem at all. Okay, TJ, I think you helped with the virtual backgrounds. Thank you so much. And then let me go back to the accountability slide while we're answering questions so that way you can see those. Okay, Emma? All right, great. What else? In order to record a video in Zoom, can you send a link to someone who does not have a Zoom? Absolutely, Kelly. You'll be able to get, just like in this, from this meeting, you're gonna actually get a link to Zoom, and it's just gonna be a link that you're gonna click on, and you're gonna be able to see me, I'm sure, there you go, that will make you laugh, in the presentation, and you won't have to have that. Oh, Emma, sorry, okay, authenticity, let me go back for you, okay? All right, Aline. Even though we watched the class, will we still get emailed the slides at the end? Absolutely. So Aline asked in the chat, are we going to be able to get a copy of this? And the answer is yes. So within about 24 hours, ACE is going to send out the recording of this presentation, as well as a quick survey for you, being able to get any feedback of what I could do better or what would be helpful. So please in your inbox. And additionally, feel free to share it too. If there's something that you saw today that you thought might help somebody, more than welcome to share on social media or with your friends or family. This is really meant to be something to be supportive. All right, and I think I got the right slide for you, right? Okay, there's that one. How long will the link last in Zoom? That's a great question, Gunn. I'm not quite sure. I've never had one really expire if it's pulled down and saved to you. So I would have to get back with you on this. Can you review how to use the virtual backgrounds? Brian, did you get that question answered? I think TJ did that, but I can show you real quick on that. And so virtual backgrounds, just so you can all see here, is that if you go to the video thing, you could do choose virtual background. And if you do that, you upload some backgrounds here, and you can select the different backgrounds. So this would be none. This would be my dog. There's Otis. And then if I wanted raining dogs. And then of course my favorite Telluride. Okay, great. Kelly, that's a great question. I don't think we had actually planned on doing certificates for this, but that's a really great feedback. So let me kind of talk with my team here and see if there's something that we could work into that for like badges or something in the future. So we hadn't planned on certificates, but let me take that as something as a suggestion to see if that's something we can or cannot do. But right now the answer is no, but let me see if there's any options there. All right. So with that being said, let me go to into my slide. I apologize. I just all of a sudden got out of this. All right. I think I have been able to answer all the questions. If there's anything I can do to help you with, please let me know. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to do anything. As far as social media, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter. Happy to be able to answer questions and help you in any of this. And thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate your participation. And I hope you all have a really good day. Stay well, stay safe, and just know that we're all in this together. I hope you all have a good one.